And then literally 2 seconds later, I sent Dana a voice message right after it happened. Plasma, baby! A little like ball of light all of a sudden appeared and zoomed out.
Once we're spiritually mature enough to handle it.
Plasmoids in science can penetrate solid materials, destroy electronics, jellification of metals. It can instantly turn metals into a type of jelly. It can magnetize non-magnetizable materials like wood. When we consciously put the intention to connect, more of them show up.
But it's not that the dystopia is in the future, and there's almost this push that's like destiny. The dystopia is right now because it is in our imagination, and we are being influenced by this. And by focusing on what we choose to focus on, that is what it will actually manifest.
When I see, I wouldn't call it God, but when I see all these culminations of our future ancestors, right, of our higher selves that I think are visiting us, are the aliens.
We have just as much creator power as God does, but we're on like sandbox mode.
Hello, beautiful family. Before we begin today, I want to reveal something about the next chapter that we're building here on Just Tap In. I always knew that this community wasn't only meant to live on a screen. You see, there are 3 worlds within every human being. The soul, the part of you that knows you came here for something more. The seed of the future emerging through you. The mind and the body, where creation becomes action and where ideas become movements and shared realities. And lastly, the ancestral memory, the remembrance of what we knew before fragmentation. That's why I'm officially launching our first ever fully immersive 7-day retreat and excursion. We've called it Raíz Futura, to see the roots of humanity's future. From August 31st to September 6, 2026, 25 people will gather in the roots of the Sierra Nevada of Santa Marta, Colombia. This is known by the indigenous as the heart of the world. It'll be a sacred pilgrimage of remembrance, transformation, and collective heart restoration. We will begin to consciously build and gather with other visionaries and leaders and become architects of a more beautiful world. The new earth emerges when the right people gather in coherence. Applications are now officially open, with some spots filling up pretty fast here. If this feels like a beacon call for you, the link to apply is down below. Much love, family. Stefan Burns, Dana Kippel, welcome on Just Tap In. We are now starting a series of episodes on the podcast called The Convergence, where I'm bringing 2 or more voices that I feel in my heart are very aligned and coherent to bring forth new ideas and new shared perspectives on the awakening, on consciousness, and where we're headed as a human race. And so I wanted to start off with both of you asking, what are you most excited about globally at this current moment of Earth, of our ascension timeline, and anything that's going on around you that you're witnessing? Dana, we can start with you.
Oh, great. Ladies first. How exciting. I think this might be a funny answer, but what I'm most excited about is actually like the pain I've been feeling. I'm in this weird liminal space where like I'm not my old self, but I have no idea what my new self even is. And I'm kind of starting to realize that there is no new self. It's like a constant state of becoming. It's like this liminal space is the mystery, right? And I think where I used to run from my pain and darkness and be scared of all these human emotions and intense emotions, for the first time ever, I'm able to almost like breathe it in and trust myself and learn I'm safe with myself and like safe to be myself, whatever that means, and safe to feel the spectrum of human emotion. And I feel like that's starting to be reflected in the world where we're like I don't know what we're creating, but it's like, even though we're in a darker time, we're creating this container of like creation energy, and we're starting to realize we're like the architects of our life, like the co-creators. And also there's a beauty in like surrendering to the mystery of that, where like we can set intentions and create, but the way that it's painted is like almost not even up to us. It's like, I don't know. It's just, I feel like it's this really cool time where I'm in the unknown. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I feel good about it. When I take away my mind and fear, the feeling of the future is good. And I just really want to project that out because even though it is within me, I really feel like that can be a reality. And it doesn't mean we're going above duality per se, but I think our perspectives are going upon above duality. So yeah, I feel like for me, I'm feeling really optimistic about the future. It's a very exciting time. Yeah.
What about you, Stefan? Thank you for sharing that.
Well, I can add a few thoughts. In general agreement with Dana, that's what I'm sensing as well. I mean, I did a tarot reading with a friend of mine, Atypical Tarot on YouTube, way back when AI was just starting. And we asked that question and we got the star card. And our question specifically was like 20 years from now. And there's so much out there of like dystopian AI future. And I myself had a crazy dream, like not last night, the night before, of think of those mechanical dog robots, but imagine it scaled up to like mech size. And it was walking down the street in like a quiet suburb. It's like New England dusk. The sun's going down. It's like green trees, the road. And it was like walking along, and it had all the sensors, so it's seeing everything. I was like, oh, it was scary, bro. And but thankfully I was like just at the edge of sight, and then I like walked a little further. There was another one in the distance, and so I had that dream. And then I listened to the first part of your presentation, Sacred Imagination, which I thought was fantastic. And I came to a realization that, you know, it's not that, I mean, who knows? But it's not that the dystopia is in the future. And there's almost this push that's like destiny. It's in many ways the dystopia is right now because it is in our imagination. And we are being influenced by this. And just interesting note for people that watch this, there's this anime show called Samurai Jack. And shout out to this guy. There's this guy who makes fantastic music online. His name is Macro Blank. He released a new album, and it had this Samurai Jack album cover. Samurai Jack is the samurai with this magic sword who went to fight this shape-shifting evil demon guy. And basically he flung him into the future when he already had conquered the world and everything was evil and dystopian. So I connected to that by listening to this album and like looking at the album art and researching. It's like, oh yeah, Samurai Jack. I forgot about that. And so then I wasn't surprised. I was imprinted with those images of the potential futures. And of course, right now it's swirling like crazy. We have Saturn, Neptune making all this possible. But the point, to get to Dana, and then I'll share kind of where I see this as well for myself, my own personal interest, is that right now we are actually in that. It's not necessarily guaranteed for the future. It's just we need to overcome and navigate these, you call them obstacles, because we could manifest that. And so this is the critical moment now. And by focusing on what we choose to focus on, that is what it will actually manifest. All the potential is there. We're seeing so much support come in energetically from the universe, from the sun, from the earth. And what I'm really excited about for the future is now there seems to be a much faster progression of people seeing the interconnectedness of things and new research coming out from mainstream sciences, everything, adding support to this. So a recognition of earth, like novel earthquake dynamics that before people were like, oh, that's pseudoscientists or pseudoscience. And now it's like, actually there's something there. Or things with the sun that people are like, oh, that's all fake. And it's like, you know, the planets and the sun actually are connecting together more. And so there's this a greater blossoming and awareness of our interconnectedness, which fundamentally ties into everything that the two of you guys talk about and I touch on. And with that understanding, as it's propagating out so much faster than it was before, it's just like it's like a good mind virus, you could say. Like reprogramming people, reformatting them, and therefore with more conscious awareness of this, you know, that maybe dystopian future doesn't have to actually happen. Or whatever crazy future that isn't in service to the highest good and of humanity and of the earth. Right, because Earth wants to be a beautiful, loving place for all life. And we're a little nexus point to that for the entire universe in some aspects. Like this is a very special location. Our solar system is very special on the galactic scale.
And I want to just add for 2 seconds to that. This has to do with when I was acting, but I always had in my head, and I think this is a great reflection of the fear programming we've had. And maybe it's not all purposeful, right? So like when I was an actor, I would audition for things, and right away in my mind, for some reason, I'd be like, "Oh, the casting directors are so mean. They don't want me to get this part. Like, I'm never gonna get this." But then I realized when I actually met the humans, the casting directors in person, and became friends with some of them, they always want to support you. And there are beings and energies in this world that are so supportive. Nothing is against us but our own mind, but fear, nothing to fear but fear itself. And we are so supported by these beings, by these energies. They want us to get the part. They want us to realize we're co-creators rather than victims. And all we need to do now is switch our focus and feed the right wolf, and then realize there really is no wolf. We're just co-creating. And yeah.
And a lot of these energies also go pretty far back. So using this example with Samurai Jack, which is a show most people watching probably haven't seen. It's just this animated show. It's won a lot of awards. The guy who animated and created it, it's the same guy for like Dexter's Lab and some of these other animated shows from the 90s and early 2000s. He grew up, and he's from Soviet Russia, which many people back then, that's when there was the threat of like nuclear war, they had their own dystopia in some way, took that, internalized to some degree, and made this show, which then imprinted on all like the millennials, my age, and they had 4 seasons where there was no conclusion at the end. And then like 11 years later, they rebooted with the 5th season that then summarized the show and evil was vanquished. But all these kids, including myself, because I watched it to some degree, were imprinted with this like hopeless dystopian future, and there was no conclusion to it. But in reality, eventually that final season was made, and the thing was overcome. But it's showing this connection with the energy about how the older generation, that post World War II, that lived under this tremendous fear of nuclear holocaust and communist takeover and all the things on both sides, like everywhere, just in general, very, very fearful time, has then continued to imprint going forward. But this is now our opportunity to finally recognize that that happened and basically just let go of the programming and transform it.
I love that we're tying in here elements of imagination, synchronicities, the interconnectedness. You even brought up your dream that you had a few days ago. I would love to explore, maybe turning it also to Dana. This is your area of expertise with the plasma. Where do you believe these dreams, these states of imagination, what we get imprinted with in our imagination, that then we see in the mainstream, like in movies or in science fiction films, or the beings, the benevolent beings that you talked about, where are they coming from a plasma point of view?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was going to write it down, but because I have so many answers. Okay, first things first. Just like our world is made of, our visible matter is 99.9% plasma in science, I say the invisible world is made out of 100% plasma, right? But it's more like the invisible sun, the sun behind the sun. It is the ether. It is the subtle plasma that makes up the dream world, right? So it's just the fabric of that is non-material. It is non-physical plasma. It is the vehicle for consciousness. With that said, this field, I see it on 2 different levels. There are 2 layers, right? There's our physical reality. Then there's in science too, there seems to be this like quasi-physical reality, what you may call the collective unconscious, or what I kind of call like circular time or the subtle plasma, where it's imprinted consciousness. It's not conscious itself. It's like the subconscious of the universe, right? It is like the membrane around our reality, this 4-dimensional membrane, still in time and space though, or I differ that from some people that don't think it is. It's just non-linear time. But yeah, in there's archetypes, there's ancestral memories, the Akashic realm. And what has it been programmed with for hundreds of thousands of years? Survival consciousness, because we are evolving as a human race. We're like little baby consciousnesses, and now we're like teenagers and we're freaking out and we're about to go to college, right? But we don't realize there's a whole world ahead of us, and we're being born into something new and turning into butterflies. And we think this is all there is. We think high school is all there is, but there's a whole new world. And where most of us are plugged into that field, which is an informational field. What little do we know, though, that there's a I don't, it's non-linear, but I guess a higher field, a more, I would say, fifth dimensional field, or what I call omniplasma, or an even subtler plasma. This is kind of where I see like all our higher selves are. This is like beyond time and space. It is just something completely outside of this world, but we're still connected to it by our emotion. It's like our emotion is that middle layer, and it connects us to what I call feeling, or this total immaterial. And the immaterial wouldn't be able to get to the material without the quasi material. And that's where we dream, right? This quasi space. Once again, that has been pre programmed with thousands of years of survival. But once we realize that that is natural, that we have not been put on by some dark forces, we are our own dark force, then we can start transmuting this field instead of being victims to it, realizing that we can use it to paint and mold our reality. And how do you mold that? You come in from that fifth dimensional perspective, that higher perspective, our higher self, right? Our whole self, our multidimensional self. And when, we're not plugged into, we're always connected, but we're not always in this, right? That's the human experience. But when we can be in that space of flow, we have a higher perspective, and we can see all the potentials of this informational field and mold it and create with it instead of fall victim to it from beneath. And I just find us using this middle layer of information, which also creates material reality, which is why we're starting to learn in science to literally shapeshift matter. We're starting to use this and create with it. And I think the next, era of us is going to be realizing that, yeah, these dreams are not something that fall onto us. We can use them as tools, and our emotion as tools, and create with our dreams and print dream images onto our world and use that. We can create new archetypes, new stories, that all the old stories we can almost transmute and evolve. So anyway, I don't know where I'm going with that, but yeah, we're evolving. We're plugging into this sense that we've always had, this ancestral sense, right? This plasma that makes up our soul, and it's almost evolving to this mechanism we're freaking creating with. And yeah, there's a new science coming, a new holistic science coming that will explain more of this.
Wow. I wanted to beautifully said and turn it over to Stefan, because when you bring up this new era of us, so much is happening. Stefan was telling us before we recorded that the solar activity is going crazy right now. There are things in our skies that we can't even explain what's going on. In a few days from this recording, when it's published, this movie, Disclosure, Steven Spielberg, will be coming out. And this is supposed to be the year of disclosure of everything that's happening and behind the scenes. So when it comes to this next era of us, Stefan, where does that land for you, especially with this new model of science that is emerging and that you're deeply embedded in right now?
New era for us. Well, I guess just to kind of back up a little bit, I think God likes to experience everything, like all the possibilities, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in the final, let's say, concrete reality. Like, I think there's a part of God that explores this dystopian reality, right? Because obviously we're seeing that manifest in terms of people's conversations, and there are certain things happening. But if God is sufficient with the dystopian reality being experienced, let's say, in that dream state for like 30 minutes or something, which wasn't the end of the world, it was kind of enlightening in some aspects, then that's fine, right? It's like, okay, if God needs to experience it, but it's done in this like safe container, then maybe that then absolves that, and hopefully we're on that. We can then choose which timeline we want to be on, because God will allow all of them to be there. So just recognizing that these energies have more impact on us than we've been told that they do. This goes back, and my comment about being connected to the older generations and those thought forms going forward, this goes back thousands of years. So we've been systematically, there have been forces working to systematically disconnect us from these understandings. As you very well know, you talked about with your Sacred Imagination lecture, like the root word for imagination, Greek is, a lot more elaborative in terms of kind of laying out that imagination is not a delusion, but it's actual creation. And imagination can be delusional if you want it to be, but it is this sacred gift that we have. And so as we recognize and we're better able to get a sense of the quality of time, like, okay, is the sun super active? Okay, it is. Like, this is a good time to really like pump out, energy and to really utilize your creative gifts or develop them, right? Creativity is a skill. Some people naturally have a little bit more of that gift, but you have to develop it. There's this planetary alignment, Venus and Jupiter. Maybe this is a good time to bring people together and to have fun and just to actually enjoy life, because that creates a positive energetic field that then ripples out. So if we want to let the good times roll, we have to let the good times roll. It's one reason I like living where I am, is that I don't engage in it much, but there's always people partying and having fun. And there's just a nice, pleasant energy field where I live in general. And we can create that wherever we are. We have a lot more conscious control over things than we have in a long time. And we're recognizing that back in the year 1500 and 1600, and we started to get systematically disconnected from our connection to everything. We have some like big obstacles that we need to overcome. I mean, the witch hunts, the Inquisition, those energies still exist. They're now ripples and vibrations and echoes, but we didn't get to here without having gone through there. And you go back, I've said this many times on many podcasts, but you go back to the Neolithic, and I'm sure there were some challenges, but in general, that's probably the best humanity has been. Like the climate during the Neolithic was perfect. We don't see any like major cataclysmic events during the Neolithic. People had close-knit communities of like 100 people. There's a chieftain, but everything was fairly well distributed out, it seems, based off of the archaeological record. They performed elaborate religious rituals, in attunement, in alignment with the earth and the cosmos. They had fantastic record keeping of what was happening in the sky, so they clearly understood these cycles to some degree. These sacred sites are clearly built on energy vortices naturally, like ley line convergences, dragon line convergences, or just upwellings of energy from the earth. So they didn't have all this stuff to distract them from reality. They were very tuned in, and they created amazing technology like agriculture and the cultivation, domestication of plants and vegetables and fruits and everything that is really just like, what do we really need on this planet? Like, this is great, being able to communicate together, but we could also, if we were back in the Neolithic, just have this within our tribe, and that would have been perfect as well. So I hopefully we're moving towards like a Neolithic 2.0, where we're just as grounded and centered and connected as they are, but we also, because we have these technologies, can utilize them intelligently. And AI, for example, can be used to help us discover new connections between things, because it's fantastic at programming in Python and research, right? But it's not used to install something that, goes against like the actual frequency of the earth.
Yeah, and AI is not conscious and never will be.
Yeah. And see, the thing is also, I'm like, if the sun is seeing all this and guiding all this, and we're like little high vibe, fractal representations of the earth and the solar consciousness and of the solar system. Like, we're very special. We have a very special place in this solar system and for the entire universe. But if we get off track and this little experiment like starts to like go a little haywire, I don't have any doubt that the sun will blast us with something that'll just totally reset us.
But we'll be fine.
Biology will be fine. I think if anyone that's not in resonance, though, will have some biologic thing occur that may be it. But overall, humanity overall would be fine with a super flare, because we've gone through many of them. But I think that perhaps could just totally wipe out any non-resonant structures, entities, whatever, thought forms. And just like the sun is there for our best. So it will do that if necessary, if we get off track.
I'm sorry for smoking.
When was that last super flare? You said we've had them before.
Last one was like near the, it was in the 11th century, I believe, maybe 1078. We don't actually know if it's from a super flare. They're known as Miyake events, and basically, to keep it simple, we see this huge spike in radioisotopes. So they'll go up like an order of magnitude or even more, indicating a massive amount of particle flux, which is probably from the sun, because that's the big thing in our neighborhood that could do that. It could technically be from a cosmic source. If you have some super coherent, narrow jet beam of plasma or light, it could cause that. Or I also think perhaps it's possible that there's some force that comes up from the Earth that causes this ionization, because we see like earthquake lights, which is plasma coming up from the Earth. But it's probably most likely from the sun, though with the whole record of them, maybe 5% are cosmic and 1% are Earth generated and 94% are, solar. We don't really know.
There's also something very interesting I read the other day that black holes, I know, shoot out jets of plasma, and a lot of them are directed toward or come towards Earth, I think, and neutrinos are coming from them. It's a lot to look into. I'll talk about it another time.
I know, Dana, you just got back from Contact in the Desert, and I was reading your Instagram post about it, and you said very firmly that we don't need government disclosure. And right now, going a little bit back to that question that I sort of hinted at, with this year of disclosure that like so many people are talking about now, the files are getting released, a big blockbuster movie's coming out in just a few days. What do you mean by we don't need government disclosure, and where does that land for you in terms of where we're headed with that?
Yeah, so basically, I'm just sick of like outside sources telling me what to think. And here's the thing though, like to take the victimization off myself, I don't think anyone's even purposely doing that. I almost think it's just the natural psychology of like people in power, right? They feel I've met very wealthy people and very much people in power, and they almost feel like we have to be guided, like we're these little peasants and we don't know what's best for us and they know more than us. Like that's just how people like that think. And, I think that we don't want to place ourselves in our individual lives or in the collective as feeling like we need to ever be validated outside of ourselves, because that's how cults get started and that's how group mass minds get started and horrible genocides get started. And I think we all need to be so strong within ourselves, knowing our truth is our truth and our experience is our experience, no matter if you can prove it or not, because experience goes beyond proof. Like when you love someone, no one can prove that. That's an experience, and love is the basis of life. And when the government, I don't need the government to tell me about disclosure or what it is, because number one, they don't effing know. And number two, like only I know what that is for me. Like the first relationship with like God ever was an individual personal relationship. You didn't need a church or a religion to tell you what the heck that was. I'm trying not to curse. But yeah, I just think true religion, like the jeans, is a personal relationship that you wear. And I think that the government, we have to remember plasma speaking, these consciousnesses that visit us wherever they come from. And I think it's all love, by the way. I think the dual consciousnesses that visit us are not conscious. They're more informational, unconscious, the scary things. But all our power is within, and all the love that is visiting us, it reflects, and plasma is outside of it, encases it, right? It is the vehicle for consciousness. This informational, subtle plasma reflects our subconscious. So when you have all the government, a lot of the government who is coming from capitalism and control and fear and trauma, and they are going and in hierarchy, it's going to reflect something material, because they're coming from materialism. They're coming from, how can I learn about this ship to capitalize on it and market it, for airplanes to rule the world, blah, blah, blah. They're not studying the metaphysics of it. Their heart is not open. And the unicorn only reveals itself to the pure of heart, right? The authentic. It doesn't mean you can't make mistakes, but you need to be coming from that genuine place of love. And the aliens, or whatever the heck it really is only going to show itself as a material, metal thing to them, and they don't really know what it is. But I think they're in their own massive delusion, and I think they're projecting it onto us, because I've never seen a real crash retrieval. I've seen aliens that are holographic, that are beautiful, that have shapeshifted as my consciousness has healed. And I think it's a very personal thing. Once again, I think all these paranormal things are connected. Ball lightning, orbs, angels, jinns, dakinis, alien. It's all the same thing coming to us as stories from our cultural programming. And I don't think it really even matters. And we don't need to argue because that'll divide us more. I think the second we realize that everyone's truth is okay and we need to respect that, and some of us will kind of group together based on our own beliefs, the world will be a better place. But it's really quick as far as the movie Disclosure. The jury is out on that so far because I haven't watched it. I heard it has to do with more of emotion being at the center of it. That will be exciting, if that's true, and it has to do more with like hyper empathy and emotion. But yeah, if it has any like pre-programming that's negative, I'll just be so angry. But yeah, anyway, that's my thought. And I think the real disclosure, one more thing, sorry. This is long-winded, but this is very important. The real disclosure is ourselves. It is our higher selves. It is not what are aliens? What are illegal aliens? They're other humans that we call aliens. Aliens are just the collective unconscious and also just something that's our family that we don't understand. It's like parts of ourselves that we've discarded. And everything is like a callback to wholeness. Of course, there are other aliens that aren't us. I get that on a higher level. But it's very to me, it's very important to understand that, we disclosure, nothing's coming to save us. There's no chariot. We have to make the choice every day to connect and decide what that is for us. It's been going on for hundreds of years already. It is weirdly happening collectively right now because a lot of us just went through a hard time in the world. And I think that jump started everything. But yeah, disclosure's already here. Like it's a trick if you think something's gonna happen and happen and happen and need to hear about it and get confirmed. Focus on yourself, focus on your life, focus on your change in the world, your connection, focus on the mystery, which is beyond words, and just enjoy life. Yeah.
And just to add to that quickly, movies have a very powerful effect on the subconscious, the mind, these images that we generate. They move you. It's like a movie, and then a show. It's like what is it showing you? And I haven't seen the movie. I'm probably not going to watch it. I had this crazy dream when I was a young kid of like an alien abduction that was like super traumatic, and so for a long time it was like this deep basal fear, which has been worked on. But I remember seeing the trailer for this new movie that's coming out, and it showed the girl on the operating table and the alien. So, this very well could be an attempt, probably is, to imprint these negative feelings and fears so the next generation perpetuates that going forward. So the whole, from the top down disclosure stuff, it's all nonsense, basically. But there's the other disclosure that's occurring simultaneously, and the planetary alignments would indicate this is just the quality of time that this is happening, which is these big players, let's call them, right? They know astrology and everything. They know how to read the quality of time. They're not stupid, so that's why they're releasing all this stuff now. Because this Neptune-Saturn convergence is really, really powerful. Once in 37 years, but it's on the equinoctial marker, so it's a super big deal. But we saw a meteor strike come down at an erupting volcano, and then a plasma orb fly up from it just recently. And the only explanation is, well, maybe it's a satellite. It's like, dude, that was like a weird, coherent plasmoid coming up exactly along the trajectory of this meteor. We're seeing anomalous meteor strikes coming in across the United States, a sonic boom over South Carolina, completely unexplained. Tons of things are happening just naturally to provide what you could call disclosure, should we use the word, but it's really just more evidence of what typically is a little bit more in the unseen realm. So there's the disclosure movement, which is maybe seeking to program people and instill certain fears and thoughts and whatever, and whoever watches and takes part, and to capitalize on that. There's a lot of fakes in that field, everything. And then there's the actual disclosure of like, what are we seeing? Oh, anomalous surge in fireballs and meteor strikes, and we're seeing this activity that's odd, and this activity, and like weird undersea volcanic activity. And so I think there's almost like two types of disclosure occurring right now, and I'm not concerned about all the nonsense disclosure, and it's just I'm not into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love if we could go deeper into that notion of the plasmoids that I know, you know, Dana was like plasmoid. You want to
Yes.
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, and then Stefan can probably say it in a way more coherent way. But so there's a few researchers with plasmoids. One of the first I read about was actually Nikola Tesla, who studied ball lightning. And then there's also Simon Hine who talks about it. I know he doesn't completely, I don't completely jive with everything he says, but he's so well researched in plasmoids. And then there is actually a ball lightning book by this writer that's or fiction book. And then I want to say one other reference. Oh, but yeah, like plasma right now is kind of disclosure, right? Plasma is the glue. It's how spirit communicates to us. And these plasma events, literally volcanoes, earthquakes, solar flares, these beings coming to us, they're all plasma being more shown in the visible world. It is like spirit is communicating with us now visibly because our senses are evolving. It's always been there. We're sensing it more. And plasma is almost like the mode of communication. Like every time you see the aurora borealis, that is from, like a huge sun flare, and then the earth and the sun communicating in a weird way, information exchange. Anyway, to go back to plasmoids, their plasmoids are almost explanations of all this paranormal activity. So there can be like micro-sized plasmoids, and then there can be these large plasmoids. There's ball lightning, which is naturally occurring sometimes in thunderstorms, but it can randomly happen too. And it has like a colder, it doesn't really have heat signatures, it's more colder on the outside of it. And then there's plasmoids, and then there are also potential UAP plasmoids that maybe are being manned by higher consciousness, maybe not in it, but it's almost like a portal or a looking glass where they're maybe remote viewing us, or it opens up some crack in space time. And who knows? I don't even know that yet. But also, ectoplasm, right? And ghosts and plasma. And then there's, like the orbs that go show up on, photos with it. But basically what plasmoids actually are, they have properties of, and Stefan can go more into this, like magnetic recombination. Sometimes there are no heat signatures. They have intelligent movement that represents almost like a life or something living. And what I think plasmoids are is actually the makeup of our soul. I think just like we have our biofield or bioplasma around us, I think it's our ancestors. Plasmoids, I think, were here before consciousness landed in them, right? So it's almost like now we're in these plasmoids too that are more subtle. But that's the vehicle for consciousness. And then, there are different types of plasmoids. Like all those orbs we're seeing in the sky some are natural occurrences. Like most of the UAP UFO encounters can actually be described by matching up solar flares with all the UFO sightings. But and they actually have even been known to turn off old trucks and cars and create crop circles, all these things. But the weird mystery within that all, even though there's a science explanation, is that when we consciously put the intention to connect, more of them show up. Um, so yeah, there's a lot. I know I spoke more about the metaphysics of plasmoids, and I'll let you, Stefan, speak more on the science of it. But there's just the craziest connection with plasmoids, consciousness, our magic, and the paranormal. And I think there's a huge space for the newer science, which I'm working on in my next book, to explain more. And I'm happy to go more into it.
Yeah, I mean, speaking on if you put the intention out there, they show up. I was joking, I was walking around with a friend, and I was joking around about like, hey, because we were talking about these things. He finds this interesting. He started watching my channel, and he's a geologist, geophysicist guy, and but very open-minded into quantum. Shout out to AJ if you're watching. Anyways, I was joking around. I was like, we can see a plasmoid right now. And then literally 2 seconds later, I sent Dana a voice message right after it happened. Plasma, baby, a little like ball of light all of a sudden appeared and zoomed out, like not that high up. The best explanation I have for it logically is that a small little bird flew into the light of the billboard that was there, it illuminated, and then as it got out of the light, it disappeared. But the light kept shining further out than when it disappeared. And a songbird typically, they flutter very frequently. So it's not like usually a perfectly straight line. They're kind of always bobbing up and down. And this was fast. So that's the only explanation I can think of logically. I think I mean, basically, it was like we could see a plasmoid right now, and then this little plasmoid just like zoomed by really quickly, and then disappeared after about 2 seconds. I was like, oh, like, but see, the thing is, I wasn't saying we could see a plasmoid right now from like this, I need to see it. It was just super spontaneous, just like almost a joke, but playful is the best way to describe it. And then it's like, yeah, I am here. And here along the Pacific on the beach, you have more ions in the air. And so in general, there's a little bit more conductivity, and you get these sort of sightings often off the ocean, off the coast. There's a lot of weird things off the California coast that occur. People have seen everything. And yeah, I mean, I think Dana covered it pretty well. In terms of the science, plasmoids can be fractal. So this one that I saw was like super tiny. If it was that, I leave room for the bird explanation, but I give you my thoughts. But they can also be like planetary or even larger in scale. So we have these solar storms now coming in. Those are all plasmoids. These waves go out, but they also at times can break into these chains of coherent plasmoids, where the plasma is all basically forming like this coherent structure of fixed magnetic fields. So it's like a superconductor, and also the plasma. So it's not undergoing this evaporation, you could say. It kind of stays fixed and coherent. These sort of plasmoid chains can get created, and those can be huge, 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 many times the size of the Earth. 3I Atlas flew into our solar system last year. Actually, well, before that. It really started to make itself known in 2020, though we didn't know it, because it formed perfectly this alignment with the Saturn-Pluto conjunction we had in 2020 on January 12th. Really crazy. But it's continued to go through. We detected that its outer CO2 envelope was half the size of the sun, and then also its water and methane envelopes and more, all very, very large. Pluto, for example, has an atmosphere that goes out to the size of the Earth. So even though Pluto is much smaller, it has this envelope of gas and plasma. So these plasmoids exist at all these different scales. They're carried by different objects. Earth at a big scale could be considered a plasmoid because it has this plastosphere surrounding it.
Everything
plasma
is, and the
inside.
black hole is.
Yeah, so like they're all over the place, and some of the interesting qualities about them is that they are stable over time. And now our Earth is being fed by the sun, but in general, you look at it over a long time frame, the magnetic field is stable, the plastosphere is stable, so it's this coherent unit. It's not like the Earth just evaporates one day, because there are cohesive forces holding everything together at all the different scales. Same with the sun, same with the planets, asteroids, whatever. And they also, interestingly, some of the research shows that they can have these internal energies, and what they broadcast externally is only at like certain frequencies. So it'll only be emissions at higher frequencies that you pick up, and all the internal frequencies can be completely black and dark. So there can be a lot happening in there, a lot of structure, layers and membranes and cells and everything, but we may not have any observational evidence of that unless the plasmoid, let's say, passes directly over a sensor, let's say like a voltage gradient sensor, that can then pick up all the weird internal structure of this thing, which you can create a plasmoid in a lab and measure those things. They've done that, but this is a lab-based plasmoid and not maybe a natural plasmoid from the sun or the Earth or whatever. And we have videos of this. We have videos of earthquake light. So it's undeniable that these things exist. It's just people just simply don't know, and maybe they just find it a little bit beyond their wheelhouse. So there's some of these headwind forces, but those are quickly going away as tailwind forces come in, like, what Dana and all three of us do. Like, I'm talking about this, she's talking about this, you're doing this podcast right now with us. So people are learning this stuff, they're researching into it, and it's sweeping across, the awareness is sweeping across the world, which is why I'm so optimistic in many ways.
Can I share one more thing about plasmoids? I just had a little download.
Boom.
Yeah, you had a bunch of
Yeah, I just know.
notes that you were running through.
Okay, the most important thing I forgot to mention about plasmoids. So think about it like Earth, right, is a plasmoid holding maybe Earth's consciousness, and it's solidified, just like we're solidified in our bioplasma that's holding our consciousness. So the most important property about plasmoids I found is they transmute. They do what's called the path of least resistance, and this is in science. So right now there's a company, Vermeer. They're kind of doing like cold fusion, I would say. They're using plasmoids for something called reformation, where they put methane, which is CH4, into a stable plasmoid. And then it becomes a very clean form of hydrogen energy with the H, and then the carbon becomes a very high form, like the highest, cleaner form of like graphene or whatever it's called. So basically what it does is it takes in things, right? Just like ours takes in information. And when you surrender to it, it creates the path of least resistance, or it transmutes it to its most like optical path. So basically, you can think of us doing that the same way. And it's the science for how like we surrender to incoming information. And if we just let go, our highest path will generate. But plasmoids in that way are so captivating. And also just a few more things. This is from Simon Hines' work. Plasmoids in science can penetrate solid materials, destroy electronics, which is makes sense for UFOs, jellification of metals. It can instantly turn metals into a type of jelly. It can cause sharp cuts in material that look like a laser cut. It can magnetize non-magnetizable materials like wood, suggesting it creates magnetic monopoles, which Paul Dirac talked about. It also is even thought to come from higher dimensions, and like flatland, we're just seeing like one dimension of it. And then another thing is it creates nucleosynthesis, which is basically it can create any element on the periodic table. That's from some of his research, but they're just fascinating. We still don't know what they are, which is why I think they're literally the perfect vehicle for communication of spirit. And then just the last thing, I was at Conduct in the Desert during Chris Bledsoe's Skywatch. His family is good friends of mine. And all of us saw this. It's on tape. Speaking of Stefan, your wing, how you thought maybe it could have been a winged bird. So like, but maybe not. There was a plasmoid. We all saw it. It's on camera. It starts out as an orb and all of a sudden grows wings and starts flying through the air, and then it disappeared in thin air, and it was like a winged being. And there's so much mythology, angels, Quetzalcoatl, Zoroastrianism, every mythology has a winged being. Fairies, whatever this higher dimension is of spirit, where our higher selves are, whatever you want to say is there, this other world, right? They all seem to come to us with wings or like in a vibrational or resonant way. And I think they visually show up sometimes with wings. So anyway, it's really fascinating, crazy stuff that I don't understand.
Well, I can even tie back to what you said before around these plasmoids can shapeshift based on how your consciousness gets healed. You use the word. Yeah. So what do you feel that humanity, or do you both feel that humanity at large is healing for us to be able to witness these sky events or make that contact in an easier way with the higher dimension?
I have a great comment on this. Can I start?
Yeah.
So once again, since I think it reflects our subconscious individually and collectively, I think in smaller groups or individually, you're going to have more novelty experiences, where in individual groups, it might amalgamate into like a winged being that most of us have seen throughout culture. So it's like an archetype that we're all familiar with, or maybe even a bird but it's like some weird cosmic thing. Whereas individually, what I've experienced is first, because I had a lot of trauma in my life, when these beings would come to me. And I think they were just there trying to support me, right? Like the angels in the Bible say, have no fear. I had fear. So I saw demons and I saw witch ladies and shadow people and with the weirdest shit, because my mind was so messed up as a child. But then I started healing my trauma. And first I like pedestalized these beings. The next thing I wanted to do was put them on a pedestal, like think I needed to pray to them or sacrifice something. And I started to see them as more like angels or like these deities. But then after a while, I started to neutralize that too and realized, no, like after I really started to heal my trauma, after the spiritual bypassing phase we all go through, I started to see them as these holographic lights. I almost started to see them in their like pure form. And they would just tell me things like ideas, and sometimes it would still reflect parts of my subconscious, but I knew it was reflecting that. So when I would see, Jesus or Mary Magdalene, I would know those were more story meanings from me. It was reflecting archetypes that had messages for me, rather than thinking like I was in touch with Jesus himself or I was a reincarnation of Mary Magdalene. If we move that to a collective scale throughout time, first we saw serpents in the sky, right? And then we would see these Hindu Vimanas, and then we would see steampunk things during that time. Then we started to see material things during the age of, materialism, industrial revolution. And now I think we're almost at this base level where we're starting to see the true form, which is these orbs. Like, and once you're at the foundation of something, it means I think we're healing, number one, and we're like at the crux of this thing. We're no longer victim once again to these visitations. We're going to start using them to co-create and reflect truth. So for me, it's like the real disclosure is like these beings are like, look how we work with plasma. We use it to co-create, right? We're using it to heal, and there's all these new technologies we're going to use from it. And I think the possibilities are endless. Like it'll start to almost be this connection portal, an artistic thing for us rather than something we're victim to and being visited by. They're like our family and our support. And yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but it's fascinating to me. Yeah.
Passing it over to our geophysicist.
Well, the one thing I'll say, is I think that's really for us to discover. Like what this all will be is for us to discover, because maybe the programming or just what we've been doing collectively for a long time now is like trying to exert some level of control over the situation. But we're really at a point where anything can happen. And if we go by the Saturn-Neptune conjunction on the equinox marker for the Earth, which is clearly significant, and in the constellation of Pisces, which speaks to like all the possibilities existing, I think we're just here for a ride, and we can just enjoy the journey and see what happens. And I think obviously people like to a lot of people like to be given some reassurance or some guidance as to what's happening, and that's why they like what I do with the solar weather forecasting and earthquake forecasting and such. And there's a place for things like that. But when it comes to such a wide, expansive field that we know so little about, we know so much and so little. I'm more so just like, let's just see what happens, and just be open to it. And that doesn't mean that you don't do anything. Like Dana shared some of her journey. We all have our own journeys in terms of finding what's in our mind, our spirit, soul, plasma, biofield, everything. And I'm working to refine this and just purify and lighten everything up. That's an ongoing journey for us to do. But I'll be better able to receive whatever does manifest beautifully as the universe and God sees it if I am more of a just open receptacle for that. And so rather than focusing so much on, I want this to be the future or that, I think just my own guidance for myself is I'd rather just like get myself, because I am like my own coherent body that may not last forever. There's some reason I'm here in a body. It's very rare to be embodied. If you look at the universe and the distribution of matter, it's very, very rare. It's very unique. It's a whole journey. And we see, like, there's so many parallels. We see how water is very similar to plasma. We see that we have a lot of electrical crystalline characteristics to ourselves and fascia and in bones and more. So there's all these different ways of expressing the same energy, like different structures to kind of express the same thing. We know that plasma has these plasma crystals within them. So it can take on effectively like crystalline bonds. What's crystal mean? It means that there's coherent structure to an assemblage of things. And also, as Dana was mentioning earlier, and there's research on this in laboratory plasmas, that you can have a plasma of a certain gas composition and it will create dust, right? Most plasma or plasmoids are dusty complex plasmas. There's a dust component which takes on electrostatic charges, and that influences this whole thing I'm talking about with the crystalline structure. But the dust, for example, if it's this methane one, and what they're probably doing, it can generate like micrographene or micro diamonds. And of course, diamonds have a very powerful and clear structure to them. They're the hardest known substance. So there's all these cool things that plasmas do, and they are generating coherence because there's this clear structure, coherence and crystallization, not only with their plasma crystal form, but also with this dust that they're generating, it could be microdiamonds, which have its own crystal structure. So now they have this material component to them as well. Maybe it's like the inverse. We're like 99% solid and 1% plasma, and a plasmoid is like 99% plasma, but 1% of dust, which is like matter like us. And we're really just approaching things from different angles. And then water, I'd say we're probably on team water because we're like 70% water. But, you know, we're all kind of figuring out the same overall expression of universality. And God is playing with all of them because God's like, yeah, I got the plasma, but yo, water is pretty cool too. So we're going to make sure we develop that out and see what that does and all these different things. So he's playing around, or it's playing around with everything, and we're part of that.
Yeah. And one last thing that I'll shut up about plasmoids. There's this, everyone should look up this guy, Dr. Dan Burish. The most interesting thing is he used to work with the government and now he's kind of off the map. He's still alive, but he spoke like 20 years ago at a Caltech about his research with plasmoids that he was doing, or plasmas and plasma portals. And this is like, you could find this on YouTube. And there's something with like when this like was classified, but when they put like some type of laser, that's a classified process, so we'll never know how yet, with quasi crystals, a plasma portal was created, and out of this plasma portal came some biologics. So literally, in a way, something with plasma, laser, quasi crystal created like a freaking life. And this is like a legitimate, like, look it up. It's like an hour and a half video that he presented Caltech. I just discovered it and now I'm researching it for my new book. But I mean, just like the sun we wouldn't be here without the sun. The sun is a plasma, as above, so below. It's so fascinating. We're at the beginning research of this stuff, and it's just so cool. Yeah.
I know that you two both connected at the beginning of this year, and it was just a few weeks after the MIT scientists had been taken out who was studying plasma and nuclear fusion. I'm just bringing this story because, as you're saying, there's a lot of classified projects. There's so much going on behind the scenes that is almost at the cutting edge of this new science. It almost seems like there are influences that want to, in a way, suppress might be not the best word, but detour those scientists from what they're exploring. And I just wanted to bring that up because it's a bigger story. And I feel like, hearing from both of your perspectives as, understanding these new models of science and what's possible, even just hypothetically, why it is important to still continue exploring these realms without the fear of,
Sure.
I could be taken out for expressing my truth or authentically researching what I'm here to research.
Well, I'll just start quickly by saying that a lot of, that story broke. I was right there on it with, I think it's Nuno Loureiro is his name. And then Carl Grimmer is another astrophysicist guy who there's certainly some strange things happening. What did happen, one thing to keep in mind, is that, then the whole disclosure kind of group started looking into it and they found any single weird thing with like the assistant of this person or that. And, there's tens and tens of thousands, if not more, people working in these fields. So of course people die. And so, there's some weird things, but I also take a little bit of a step back, and they also stretch the time horizon to be like, 8 years ago, and they're connecting them all. So there's certainly detour forces, as you call them, Emilio. But I also don't take some of these narratives as so people comment on my channel, like, dude, you should get out of Dodge. I'm like, bro, I mean, I don't think so. I'm not, at least I'm not.
Protect Stefan at all costs.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that at the beginning. There's odd things happening, certainly, but I also think that some of the story is a little overblown. Once they started adding in all these people from years ago, and they're not direct researchers themselves, etc.
I have exactly the same thing, and I've made a TikTok about this. I always love to be the opposite opinion because I'm a rebel, but I also really feel this way. Okay, if something is mainstream news, number one, I automatically do not trust it. And number two, I question what is not being told, because we're always being told what to think. And the real secrets, like the conspiracies, we know because someone wants us to know. We don't know the nuclear codes for a reason. Like the real shit is never told. So it's about paying attention to the subtle patterns that are not in the news. What is in your heart? What your mind is, number one, what you're not being told to think again. And what I feel is I feel like that story was actually not the killing should instill us with fear, but the story was trying to instill people with fear to not press on and do new research. It almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because when I used to feel fear when I was writing my book, I was convinced I would be killed. And I think it's like a past life thing. And I think it's also just anytime you're yourself and try something new, you have this witch wound that you're going to be killed or put on the stake for thinking differently. So it's almost like an archetypal fear and a transpersonal fear, but it's very real and is acted out in this world. But when I started really looking at the patterns of these people, most like geniuses and even people like us, whatever, we can call ourselves a genius because it's really just you connected to your soul. And we're all capable of being geniuses. Most of those people also have severe mental health problems. Including myself, most of us have. And, you know, a lot of these people, when I looked in their stories, either were sick because you're overworked or have severe mental health problems. And the other pattern was that they did work for the government. So in my mind, I'm not scared, number one, because I'm not going to make it a self-fulfilling prophecy and I'm not going to be in that vibration. Number two, I'm not going to change what I'm doing, so I may as well enjoy it until the wheels fall off. And number three, I'm never and will never contract with the government to do anything. So yes, the deaths that happen, I think every single one of them worked for the government and had access to certain informations and maybe were taken out. Maybe some of them weren't taken out. It's a bit of a silly conspiracy, but some were. And I don't know the truth, and I respect the people who passed and how they passed. But even people in their lives said that, oh no, they actually died. No one killed them. But yeah, I like to say for myself, I don't know the truth of that, but I'm on the highest timeline where I will not be killed. And I feel good, and I'm going to do this either way. So whatever, I just don't give into that narrative. And anytime I become extremely paranoid. And I will tell a funny story about this because I've been on both ends of the spectrum. When I was writing my book last year, I was so paranoid because I was checking my DMs and everyone was like, oh, you study plasma, you're going to get killed for your book. That I put myself into a bit of a silly little half psychosis, I would say, a little paranoia, which is why I quit caffeine, where I literally was so scared. I was living at my mom's. I thought that everyone knew my address. And at nighttime, and this is me being completely sober and mostly of sound mental health, I literally called the police one night because I heard sounds outside and thought that someone was coming in to shoot me. The police came, and the weirdest thing is the garage door actually was open. But later I found out, and this was so embarrassing, that my mom had been taking the dog out late at night. So I did hear something. But once again, with that fear narrative, I attached the story that I was going to be murdered. So yeah, we have to let go of those stories and really like be embodied in ourselves and regulate our nervous systems. And once again, stop watching the news.
I mean, I'm in complete agreement with both of you because as well, from my perspective, as one of the roles I play is like a podcaster that brings out truth into the world. And actually, when I've had certain shows where the guest says something that I know is like edgy territory, I relax into my body and I'm like, there's nothing I can do and I'm never going to silence anyone. So I'd rather just put this out there. And if for whatever purpose, my YouTube channel wants to get taken down or whatever it is, that's part of the higher plan. And that's my call to, explore other ways that I can express my fullest authenticity. But at the same time, I will never publish a video with fear. I will always put it out there with the highest vibration, the highest light, and whoever needs to find it will find that video. So it's like a very similar, realm that we're all edging toward, especially in this frontier of consciousness, where there may be people, there may be people that want that to be a little bit suppressed, because if we're all tapped into our magic, what happens to society? So there I wanted to bring in to open a new topic. I was watching your Q&A that you guys did at your event in San Diego a few weeks ago. And Stefan said Stefan said, magic is a loaded term. And I wanted to bring that up because, you know, we're hearing people that are capable of levitation, telepathy, all of these things are coming back to the surface. Where do you both perceive this notion of magic is coming back online? And where you draw also the line there with what some people are saying in that realm?
I'll let you go first, but I have so much to say. I'll just take notes.
Well, there's, you can kind of get some glimpses of maybe the structure and all the possibilities through fantasy and sci-fi. And there's different magic schools that they call them. Some are very active and some are like more passive. And maybe active magic has existed and maybe it'll exist in the future, maybe exists right now. I mean, I believe in magic personally. My experience with magic has been more of like a recipient of magic. Like a synchronicity, I think, is a magical event. And I think magic exists, but in terms of us living in a super fluid reality, that's more like the astral realm when you're sleeping. In the astral realm, for sure, you can do magic, right? And that's this, higher dimensional realm that's more fluid to our consciousness and what we want to create in the moment, just through intention and visualization. This realm that we're in right now, at least everyone watching this, I would assume, is a little bit more fixed and structured. We are 99% meat bags, right? So I think it just it's swirling around us where things are more fluid, and sometimes we can be recipients of that. But maybe this translates and becomes more and more active as we go forward, because if it's also, in some aspects, I think simply just an energy equation. If we were simply just getting more energy to come in, I think things are just going to transform beyond our understanding. Like the Pleiades star cluster, the closest large interstellar cluster, 444 light years away, is made up with hundreds of stars, but also they're very highly vibrational in that they're younger. They're like 50, 100 million years old, and they release a lot more light in the X-ray part of the spectrum. So this is ionizing radiation. So our sun is mostly ultraviolet, visible, infrared. And visible is, of course, a very narrow spectrum. We only have it defined because that's what we see. But infrared and ultraviolet are pretty wide. Ultraviolet can be ionizing, but it's not like extreme ultraviolet or X-ray. So our sun isn't really creating, it's a lot of plasma, it's creating a lot of plasma, but it could be creating a lot more plasma if it was an X-ray emitting star. And the Pleiades star cluster, it's not just one of those, it's hundreds. So I think their reality is probably totally beyond our understanding, because it's literally just in a higher dimension. It's probably more plasma based. And like an example of that is if you ever research into mantids, these weird ETs, which I've had like some experience with. Supposedly they're plasma based.
Tell us
about it. Supposedly they're plasma-based constructs, and so there's no way for us to actually meet in real life, but they are masters of this plasma consciousness realm, and so you can meet them on like DMT. I had a dream with them. So my dream was that all of a sudden there were like these two 9-foot tall mantis-looking like creatures that were around me, and I had never heard or seen of these things before. And then a few months later, I'm reading Astrology for All by Alan Leo. Back in like the 1900s, this was written. And he talks about the mantis creatures that live on the sun, which, the outer part of the sun is the corona, which is all plasma. So it's like, okay, this is interesting. And then shout out to this really niche YouTube channel that documents mantis experiences and also commentary on them. So it's like clips from Joe Rogan, clips from different people talking about these things and sharing their experiences. But there is a cohesive overall understanding, limited, but understanding and knowledge about these mantises, these mantids, whatever they are. So there's probably something there. And if they are plasma-based and they only communicate with us through these higher dimensional realms, then a dream state would be one place to do that. Or like DMT, which I've never tried, but that will take you right there, right? Or maybe deep, deep meditation, whatever. So all these different possibilities exist, and I see magic at least being manifestation is an act of magic, but it's not like firebolt or Wingardium Leviosa. Like I'm not seeing that. I've seen no proof of that. I want it, bro, but I haven't seen it yet.
It's coming. It's coming.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Maybe if the energetic environment really increases. If we have a binary star and we get close again to it and more energy's coming in, like.
Would that be Sirius? What star would that be?
There's one Cygnus.
well-
Yeah, go ahead.
It's kind of an unknown. There's some evidence for Sirius. There's some evidence for like Barnard star, but maybe. I don't know. I'm like trying to figure this out, and there's nothing concrete to like hold on to, but there is enough evidence suggesting that there's something altering the movement of the sun through space, and that's responsible for precession of the equinox, and not necessarily some 26,000 year wobble. Because we have wobbles. They're called nutations, where Earth wobbles a little bit because it's an oblate spheroid. But the wobbles are either an annular wobble that match up with the year, or it's a Chandler wobble, which is like 433 days in its nutation. But all of a sudden, going from an annular, a yearly, and a 433 day wobble to a 26,000 year wobble, which doesn't have any mathematical, like strong mathematical basis for. They just create these random equations to try to make it work with all these constants and inputs that are just made up. I think it's a relic of Isaac Newton and his limited ability to quantify it. But if you can simply explain it just by if the sun is curving in an elliptical orbit through space, that explains how we see the shifting star map. The precession of equinoxes. That explains it perfectly in a much more comprehensive way with some very simpler Kepler mathematics. So I think we're orbiting with something, but what it is, I don't know.
What about
Dana said Cygnus.
Well, because
Deneb.
Cygnus. So so if you look at Deneb, and I think Deneb is the star of Bethlehem, and it also there's like it's the Northern Cross of the sky. I think it's called Albiero. It's like the part of the binary star system behind it. That Albiero literally means ruler of the elves, which just sounds very like fifth dimensional and weird to me. But anyway, I think there's something to look at with that whole thing. I'll speak on magic. Or do you want to say something about that first, or no?
No, not at all. I mean, I was just in the UK with Robert Grant, and he was really showing us some new discoveries on the Giza Plateau, where we had seen that the Orion's belt is the three pyramids, but if you extend out, it starts resembling the Cygnus constellation, the whole pyramid of Giza, with some other pyramids that were documented in maps, ancient maps. So who knows? That's just the correlation there.
There's something with Cygnus. We've been getting strong radio flares, these giant radio flare bursts from Cygnus X3 in the constellation of Cygnus, which this year, January, April, and all of May, we had these strong radio bursts. And the synchronicities aligned with them have been very interesting, which I've discussed in a few videos. So yeah, there's something with Cygnus. Like I just intuitively know that there's something there. But in terms of us being binary, that thing's like 26,000 light years away, Cygnus X3. So, but it's all, I don't know, there's so many interconnections. The human mind can't hold it. Dana's doing a good job trying.
I try my best to really so hard. I sometimes I get insecure because I'm like, I just want to sound like a smart scientist or like this poised woman who just like talks in a normal embodied way, but that's just not me. I'm like a mad scientist. I can't help it. It's just who I gotta embrace it.
We love it.
Yeah, magic. So I have some thoughts. People might be surprised about this. So I was looking for the quote just now for the last 10 minutes and I couldn't find it. There's this book I read and it had a huge reminder in it. I think it was like a Sufi mystic or someone that was like, remember, like all physical magic is like, I don't like the word of the gross realm, but physical magic is to me half science and half magic, right? Like even telepathy, even telekinesis, as cool as those things may be, like telekinesis is very much science. Like when you can, just like when you're bending a spoon with like your mind, or you're sticking a coin to a wall, there's science in that. Like the heat from the coin melts the wall and then it creates a suction. And with the bending of the spoon, there is something there. But the weird thing is what's heating the metal is your energy. That's where the weird magic comes in. That's where it's like gets really shapey. But here's the thing, many charlatans will take advantage of all these physical things and capitalize off it. And then it's like perpetuating the same problem. And what do those really do for our life? Like they're cool and they make us realize reality's malleable. But what do any of those things, how do any of those things improve our life? Like if I learn telepathy, telekinesis, any of these things, like does that make me a better or worse person? Does that help me manifest more money or like live my life's dream? It could jumpstart it, but like not really. So like to me, and this is what I go back to the quote, the real magic is the non-physical. It is in the subtle. It is in our dreams. It is in this, it's this consciousness magic. It's applying what I call patterns onto our reality. And these patterns actually are displayed in plasma, which I won't get into right now, but and anyone can do this and it's free. Magic should be free and it's like your power. And yeah, to me, like real magic is just coming from that higher self space and applying certain things to reality and transmuting things. But it's the real magic to me is mundane. It's almost like you can't know you're fulfilling your destiny to do it. Or it's like, you know how you know when you're winning and then you start doing bad. It's like we have to be in this like neutral state of curiosity to experience the magic, which is really just like living life. Like to me, life is magic. Humanity is magic. And then if you look for magic, you'll find it. So I look for magic everywhere and I find it everywhere. And I like that reality. And then my last thing on that is as far as like more physical magic, like will we be ever able to like materialize something in our hand? I actually do think that's where our evolution is going. Because once again, this subtle layer, this dream world, I think is kind of merging with ours. And that's why we are having more visual experiences, more quasi-physical things are happening in science. There's literal quasi particles now that are like fields instead of atoms, which I knew always existed. They're plasmoids, but that's besides the point. But my point here is that I think it's like the caterpillar turning into the butterfly. Like we have all the workings there, but it's not, we would never know we could turn into a butterfly, but we can feel that we will, right? And we can see it in stories. And I think that we don't even know what we're capable of, but the only way to get there is to feel into it and believe. And the more of that we do that, the more physical reality will transmute. And one day we will evolve to do these crazy freaking things. I think we're at the beginning of that, and it's all up to us to believe in that and search for that and heal ourselves and see what we're capable of. But once again, with that, no matter how much physical magic there will be, I think the true magic is within our own consciousness and transmuting that and treating each other with love. Yeah. And human connection. Because that's why we're here.
So, Emilio, I know that you love your questions, but I shared a little bit about, I think everyone has certain magic gifts. Like I say for me, I have really powerful dreams and some of them have been precognition. And then also, I'm experiencing synchronicity all the time. So how to like really choose, and I'm definitely like a manifester. So like, I would say that for me, Dana, I'm sure could elaborate more, but she has an amazing ability to visualize, like incredible visualization ability, which is one of the most powerful tools for manifestation. And she also started reading my aura and everything like crazy. So I see this, I see that. I'm like, girls, stop.
I know.
Wow. Take me to dinner first. What's going on here?
Yeah, it's like, so I'm just curious though, you're the third person here, obviously, like, and you shared a little bit with this recent presentation that you did, which I thought was cool, but we just have our two examples. What are some of your magic gifts? I'd like to hear.
Too. And your definition too of magic.
Oh, interesting. Thank you guys for opening that. I mean, for me, what it really means to be in magic is to be a child again. And I feel like I've connected really deeply with this archetype of the divine child. I know sometimes in these interviews I can get very serious and focused, but if you really get to know me outside of this, it's like just a child, making jokes, literally like a joker, like a jokester. And that has helped me literally magnetize incredible, authentic people to me in my life. I always feel like I'm surrounded by literally angels, and the more I've gotten into these experiences through meditation, I've connected very, very deeply with my soul. And I feel like I have a really beautiful relationship with my soul. I can feel into it whenever I need it. Or if I'm feeling down, I could just literally just call upon my soul. And a lot of people, and I think that every higher being that we see, or everything that is materialized in our external world, is just an expression of our soul's totality, of that divine source. But back to that, I think it is really about being in a state of play and curiosity. Even this conversation, like, I get so engaged in it that I see other possibilities. I see where some of the dots can connect. And that's why I'm doing these types of convergence episodes, because I love being a connector and bringing ideas, new paradigms together. So it's the child. But it's cool because I love the question, and maybe that's something that we can open up in the comments. Like, what are your own personal gifts and magic that you like to share in the world? And the more you focus on it, the more attention you bring to it, the more you actually start seeing examples of it in your reality, as you said. So even just me speaking into what I feel are my gifts, I'm more aware of when they come throughout the day, where previously I could have just been unconscious, and other people might see it, but I don't see it because I wasn't aware of it. So I love that topic, and really inviting people to go to the comments and share what your magic is. There is a interesting dynamic that I wanted to do with both of you, which is have each of you ask each other a really deep question about whatever you want.
This is going to get dangerous really quick with Dana.
So I'll just put it out there. I don't know who wants to go first.
Oh God. What have you done?
Open portals.
You can go first.
You want me to ask you a question first? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, because I always jump to go first, and your followers love telling me that. They're like, stop cutting him off. I'm like, okay. Sorry.
We need some time to think of these deep questions. I would, I guess, well, semi-deep. This will be interesting to see what Dana says. It is 2026 right now. Where do you see yourself in 2040?
Great question. So I'm 36. I'll be, what is that, 14 years from now? So I'll be 50. Oh my gosh. So great number.
Are you still alive?
I'm alive and thriving. I look young as can be. I see myself doing kind of, and I'm all about telling people your dreams. I think if you're scared, if you tell people your dreams and it won't happen, that's also fear-based. I love telling people what I want to do. And if I change my mind, I change my mind. But I think it helps manifest it. And I see myself on some kind, basically I have like a bunch of best-selling books, fantasy and nonfiction. I've invented something to where I'm like a billionaire, but the world's first amazing billionaire that can give back to so many people and put money towards consciousness and plasma. And I'll invent something with like plasma and like supportive technology. I don't even know what that will be. And then I'll be on a stage, kind of like the Sphere, and I'll have like my own kind of show that's like only like twice a year though, because I really like my private space and my friendship and my life. But I will make a show kind of like Brene Brown meets Nikola Tesla meets like a science show meets like neon and earth vibes meets self-help. Like I'll mix together like metaphysics, science, and self-help. And then I'll also hopefully have a Nobel Prize by then by inventing like a new science, like a more holistic science and ways to study things that are non-physical. So that's what I see.
Ooh.
All right.
Oh, I saw that show in my mind, literally. Wow.
Yeah, I saw Dana inviting someone up to stage for some sort of healing. They put their hands on the Tesla coil and they're like, getting zapped with electricity. Yeah, just going nuts.
By then it'll be a floating plasma on stage, some kind of biological plasma.
So you said, Stefan, that was the semi-deep question. What is the deep question?
Yeah.
Oh, well, so Dana gets two questions. This is really dangerous now.
What is that?
Well, I just thought that was an interesting one because Dana is a big bundle of plasma. I wanted to see if she, what she was kind of just envisioning for the future. And
It's almost like I'm remembering the future, to be honest. Like that's like a hot. But with that said, really quick, I'm very open to my life unfolding, whatever's for my highest good, and we'll see if my heart's aligning with that. But yeah.
yeah, I'll need more time on the ultra deep question.
It'll come to you.
Go
It'll come to you.
first. I'll ask a deep one. Maybe that will awaken the next deep question.
And maybe it doesn't need to happen. That's also
I'm going
a
to ask a
possibility.
deep question. What has been the hardest time in your life, and how did you get through it, and why are you grateful for it now?
There's been quite a few hard times. Most recently, certainly when I started traveling around in like 2022, 2023, I mean, tremendous growth and new levels of self-awareness coming online. That was like coinciding with Saturn return. But I'm not sure that's the hardest because, I mean, probably the hardest time is when I was 5 because I don't even remember when I was 5. And that's when my parents divorced. And literally there's a complete gap. I have like 2 memories from before that. And I was, you're very young. So you're not going to remember much unless you're one of these people that remembers everything. But there's nothing from 5. So I'm like, that was probably a pretty tough time with parents yelling at each other and everything because totally got wiped and nuked. And then going forward from that, now my dad and mom are split, and my stepmom at the time, she was like bipolar, so she was crazy. And there was a lot of like, unfortunately, I mean, thankfully I was only there during like summers and holidays, and my dad was great, but fundamentally there was like some childhood trauma there. It wasn't abuse or anything, but just like when you're in the car and she's driving like a maniac because she's completely like blitzed out in her second personality, that's like a craziness, right? Like it's terrifying. So, and seeing certain things happen, I don't necessarily need to share all the personal stories, but that's something that's still being processed by my sister and I, and actually the entire family. And it just in the past couple of weeks, this is like a family thing, but clearly there's a lot there. And that also coincided because this time period is like from when I was 6 to 16. My dad had a bakery up in Northern California. And well, that's also when I was, the later part of that is when I was in high school, and, there was like merciless bullying basically that I went through with water polo and sports. And there were like two kids and one in particular that was just evil-minded, it seems, and clearly working on whatever his own thing was. Maybe he was pushing it from his dad to me. I don't know, right? It's like something. And then his other friend would be normal if he wasn't there. Like he was a nice guy if he wasn't there. But if he was there, then he would just like get resonated and jump right into it. And I'm not really like a confrontational person. I mean, I'm not like 5'2" and like unable to protect myself, but just 2 of them, and also just like I'm not really one to like fight. So just kind of relentless bullying, and then water polo was really difficult for me for a variety of reasons I won't explain. So it was all this kind of a storm, but I'm glad I had some hardship in life because not everyone does, and you see the effect of that. Weak times create weaker men. Good times create weak men. So I'm glad to have gone through some adversity. In general, I've been very blessed in my life, but it hasn't been absolutely perfect, and that's a good thing. But all these, I think one reason why 2022 and 2023 was difficult for me in many ways, just not only because of the flux of traveling, all the different countries and things of this nature, is that it also presented an opportunity by pulling back from a normal job and the rat race and, I need to get married soon or whatever. It presented me the opportunity to actually look into these things that occurred to me when I was younger, come into new awareness of them. I mean, Mila, you spoke about how like you have like reconnected 2 memories that you had that were shut away from you for whatever reason. So it's like even just the reconnection to those and then the processing and more. And then there's, of course, what's happening now, what happened 5 years ago, right? Like breakups and things of this nature. So it's like nonstop, basically. So we need to give ourselves time and also patience and understanding with this whole process. But probably when I was a young kid to a teenager, I mean, some of those things were really, really tough. And looking back, I'm like, that kid had a lot of fire to get through it. I don't know how he did, but he did, and God bless him. And also knowing that now what I think and what I focus on, I am a protective influence for my younger self in the future, right? So like I am I guess now proactively helping guide that outcome and and be a protective influence, because consciousness is, yeah, there's this time that we experience, but at the end of the day, time is just a construct, and there is this non-dimension beyond space and time where it's all at the same time, all simultaneous rather. So that's where maybe you're better able to get through this when you're a kid, let's say, because you do the processing later on, and therefore you don't perpetuate this forward to the next generation, like maybe what's happened with this guy on the water polo team. I don't know. His dad seemed nice every time I talked to him, but maybe his dad or his mom or grandpa or pastor, I don't know. 'Cause clearly there's, he's just a kid. He's being imprinted too, but for some reason, right back out like this. So
Well, what you're saying is crazy to me and really interesting. I was bullied a lot too, but basically because I feel this too, how I now send love to my past self, and I think that's the only thing that got me through it. When I see, I wouldn't call it God, but when I see all these hot culminations of our future ancestors, right, of our higher selves that I think are visiting us, are the aliens. They're doing collectively what we do now to our child selves, and how we're being pulled through to the future by them. And all we do is send love to our past selves, right? And support ourselves and have compassion, and even for our mistakes, and we wouldn't change anything. That's how they feel about us. So it's like, it's really, I feel that at least. So yeah, I think it's fascinating. Yeah. Oh,
oh,
I can't hear you.
boom, boom.
Yeah, I
And
just
thank
wanted
you also
to,
for sharing that, by the way. And I related to a lot of that.
yeah, I think vulnerability breeds vulnerability. So I appreciate both of you for expressing all of those experiences. And also, Stefan mentioned the memories that can come back to us about our past. I think that is due to, one, our consciousness rising, but also the stabilization of our nervous systems. When we feel safe to remember, these memories can come through. But what I was just seeing while you were explaining that is it's not only past memories that are beginning to come through, but future memories. So we have to feel safe and not projecting fear onto the future so that we can see visions of a more beautiful world that is possible. And so if it starts in the embodiment of our nervous system, when we feel safe in our body, we can remember a future that isn't the dystopia that we, kind of hinted at in the beginning. So I have
We're not hinting at it. There's other forces that want to make this happen. Unfortunately, it seems,
sure.
but we're building something beautiful. That's where we're going.
Yeah. I had a series of deep questions that I wanted to ask both of you as we wrap up. Before that, where would you both send people to connect with your work if they're coming across you for the first time? Obviously, we'll link everything in the show notes, but where would you send people to go deeper with both of you?
You can go first.
Well, you see my name there on the screen, so you can type that in, and I'll pop up on YouTube. I'll pop up on Twitter, X, and my handle for YouTube is just my name, so just that. For X, it's at Stefan Burns Geo, and then for Instagram, it's at Stefan Burns Official, and then my website is earthevolution.com, and there's a store there. There's also an energy analytics page where you can track what's happening energetically with the Earth, the Sun, and more. So those are the main resources, and I thanks everyone for watching, and I hope you found something useful here. I'm sure you did, and God bless you for your support.
Yes. Number one, I can tell this. Number one, I can't speak. I know there's like a solar flare happening right now, and the fact that we're having a good conversation because my cheeks are turning red, which only happens when I feel those energies. So it's very interesting because I'm like overheating, which means a lot of information's coming through. Anyways, to find my information, Dana, my Instagram is dana.thealien. My stan.store/Dana Kippel is on there. That's where my book, A New Forces, Plasma Consciousness and the New Human Potential, and where you can buy a magic class to learn more about plasma if you hate reading and rather watch a video. My next live class is June 17th at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and it's on the Divine Feminine, Plasma, and Magic. It's going to be my last one for a while because I'm writing my books. And then my website, danakippel.com, just for everything as well. And my TikTok, at Dana Kippel. My YouTube, at Plasma Intelligence.
Yeah, in like 10 years, they'll be like, okay, you have to tune just mentally to this frequency, and then all of a sudden it'll appear.
Yeah. I'll appear in your dreams.
A hologram of...
Yeah. Be careful what you wish for, folks.
Plasma hologram.
So,
Sure.
I have these last few questions, deep questions for both of you. This could start a whole different rabbit hole, but we're here for it. The first one is, what is something that you believe today that sounds completely insane, but you think that future generations will consider it obvious?
That
Well, completely insane is the key word there. The key
Semi.
words. Yeah, completely insane. Okay.
I have one.
Go.
Well, I think it's obvious and it's very simple that plasma is multidimensional. It's the vehicle for consciousness. It is intelligent, and it is the foundational quasi substance of our reality. And I think, it's the basis for all paranormal stuff. And I think that will be proven in the future, but we don't have the tools to prove that yet. So I'm sure it sounds insane to most people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have necessarily a direct answer for your question, but I just get this sense of we'll, to an even better degree, understand just how little we know right now. And we'll really perceive in the future just how limited our mindset was. Because, I mean, we're still arguing over basic stuff that there is like research papers on and like clear statistical correlations, and people just haven't read it or whatever. It's like still arguing about some of this nonsense, which is like, guys, clearly the sun and earth are connected. So I'm not insane for thinking that in 50 years, right, like that's going to be better proven. So that doesn't qualify. But I think maybe what will seem insane in the future is that how we even had a mindset that allowed for that disconnect. But even that's not really too radical, I feel like. I guess, I mean, I don't think this is insane, but maybe like a mainstream science person would think so. But I think probably the best way we're connecting to the different consciousnesses of, like, let's say the Pleiades or different star clusters or stars or whatever, galaxies, Andromeda, is through channelers. That's probably the most developed way for us to get some information from these places. And there, of course, are going to be people that just, they're going to say they're channeling, but it's just whatever is rumbling around in their brain. But then I think there are genuine, true channels that have an ability to clear and then connect quantumly and bring that through. And that is a technology, but not a technology in the sense that we know it, like, silicon chips or even quantum computers. But yeah, it's a heart-based technology, and it's a much more advanced technology, because the clear understanding is that we are the technology. Like, what we're so special in the universe, and we're also not, but we're so special because we are that 0.1%. And we've been given certain gifts, like the sun is 99.86% of the mass of the solar system. So the sun is mostly what it is, and the Earth and Jupiter and all the other planets are like, Jupiter's the majority mass for the planets, etc. So here we are, this tiny little like layer on top of the Earth that is able to have all these incredible conversations, ideas, visualizations, creations, manifestations, and more. And we simply just don't see that really, at least as far as we know, in our solar system. So we have a very special role there. And I think we're going to come into a greater understanding of just the incredible gifts that we've been given by the universe and our role and purpose in executing these abilities. Because right now, we're not doing it at scale like probably we should be. Or at least we're like babies learning how to do this. And in 50, 100, whatever years, it's going to be like, oh, yeah, of course, like you were given this incredible quantum, psychic ability. And that'll be seen as just totally normal. And right now, it's like, oh, you think you saw a ghost? You must be nuts.
Yeah.
What are you feeling, Dana?
Oh, did I answer this right? I don't remember.
No, you did. But something's coming through for you.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll just say what's coming through. I don't know if this is the answer. I forgot the question even. But I think there's going to be the new science, I think I call quintessence physics.
This is our second answer, to be clear.
Yeah, it is. Okay, I thought so. I'll just say one thing. I think that I'm just going to say this to put it out there. The new science, I think, is going to be like quintessence physics, which mixes physics and consciousness. And I think it'll be really interesting to see where materialistic science transmutes and evolves to this non-materialistic science that's more holistic. And that's all I have to say.
Yeah, and I guess a lot of people would think it's odd. Like, I believe consciousness is in everything. So a lot of people think consciousness is only with humans and the rest of the universe is not conscious. That's this idea going back to like the year 1500, way back in time, that's been programmed into us, that we have this, God exists, but we can only access them through the church, and you are a reflection of God, but the rest of the universe is made up of nothing that matters, yet that's the majority of everything by huge margins. So if you are the one thing that's conscious, but everything else isn't, then why do you matter? And so it's like this distracting and slicing and dissecting us away from everything. And consciousness is everywhere. And I think maybe in the future, people are going to be much more aware of that, and therefore they'll treat everything with more respect. Not only themselves, but their possessions, their technology that they have, other people, the world at large, the trees, the plants, the animals. I think it's crazy that people think animals aren't conscious. Like, oh, we found consciousness in fish. It's like, no, duh, fish are conscious. They may not be doing algebra, but come on, man. Like, it's so stupid to think that something else that's alive doesn't have consciousness. Like, how self-conceited do you have to be to think this? Or we just are finding out that dolphins talk to each other. It's like, yeah, of course, they're actually communicating at like way higher frequency because they're using like echo sonar, like ultrasound pulses. And I don't know, dude. It's just, we're so self-absorbed at times. I think we're only going to have these gifts of creation. It's like a sandbox. God has given us a sandbox. Because I think we have just as much creator power as God does. But we're on like sandbox mode. And until we demonstrate the maturity to unlock the full creator toolbox, we're not going to give it. We're not going to get it, because if we are so egotistical and self-absorbed, right, then it's like, what's the first thing you're going to do if you're given that full creator bond mode? Like, most people are going to, all of a sudden just make themselves rule of the world and all these crazy things that don't actually push things forward for not only us, but for all life on the planet, the earth, the sun, everything. So this is all going to come online, but we have to demonstrate the proficiency for it. And kind of just touching on that, the old beliefs are that, and some people still, right? It's like, if you're not going to heaven, you're going to hell, right? So you have to be a good person. You think of heaven as the collective consciousness of all the spirits that are there, right? And so if you have a spirit that still is unrefined and brings in these frequencies that aren't these celestial, beautiful paradise harmonics, let's say, then yeah, the gates are going to be closed because it is the whole combined makeup. So this is one reason to understand this split between heaven and hell is that you really had to live a good life. You had these commandments that were given, these recommendations from God, let's say, to make sure you were refined enough in character that you weren't perturbing that collective spiritual vibration towards a lower frequency, let's say, a dimension, whatever. And if you still had work to do, okay, then you went and you repeated the whole process. I just had this idea recently.
Yeah, and I think just to build on that with two sentences, like, I think the future is ours for the taking. I don't think we're being like rewarded or punished by any God. I think we're the ones rewarding and punishing ourselves. And once again, like, God is supportive, but like, yeah, we can't access those things if we don't, it's ours for the taking, right? These beings at least tell me, you can meet us anytime you want. Like, it's up to you, girl. And I'm most of the time down here in my own little hell being crazy. And then some of the time I'm up there and I'm like, oh, this is great. And they're like, you can come anytime. But yeah.
Beautiful. As a central teaching, where do you both feel that your models of reality converge the most?
I would say between the two of us, we obviously converge at plasma because he talks about a lot of the physical plasma and I talk about non-physical plasma. So obviously there's a huge connection with plasma there. And I would actually say the other one would be, I think we're almost just like externalizations or mirrors for people of people who are expressing their true self and their true opinions, whatever that is every day. Like, we're just being authentic to ourselves and talking. And I think maybe people can see themselves in us and notice their own potential in us because everyone can do that. And it's about just doing that. Like, we're here to express ourselves. That's honestly what I think.
Yeah, it's not like I'm doing groundbreaking research necessarily. I have a good ability to take in tons of information and do my own thought experiments on it and kind of see different connections and present that. But I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for thousands and thousands and thousands of people who did pioneering work. So, but not everyone has a gift of communication. And not everyone who has that gift of communication is given the gift of an audience. So for whatever reason, the universe is giving me both. And I really see it just as one of my duties to just translate this out to people and to put as little of my own spin on it as possible. I'm not afraid to share my own personal experiences, but in general, it's like, okay, what are we talking about today? Let's do that. Let's go. And Dana does the same thing. So we're in a very similar situation there.
Yeah, but I personalize a lot more, I think.
That's not a problem. Some people, people love that, and people that don't, they just don't resonate, and they bounce off to whatever they want to bounce off to.
Yeah, and I'm the first one to say, take everything I say with a grain of salt. Like, God is within you. Your own truth is what matters. If you resonate with this or if it can inspire you in some way, great. But yeah, it's all about, I hopefully point people back to themselves and their own power. If I can say any message and it has actually nothing to do with plasma, plasma is also a cosmic mirror. I'm really trying to remind people you're not alone. The magic and power is within you and you are supported. Like, that is it. Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah.
The last question I have for both of you is, what do you both feel and believe is going to be that next tool in the full creator toolbox that is revealed to humanity once we're spiritually mature enough to handle it?
The next tool in the maybe Dana will have her own answer. This may not be 100% an answer, but I think we'll see things happen faster. Like manifestation, for example, will happen a lot faster, so long as that intention is aligned. I think we could start to see just this really rapid acceleration, and we don't have to wait 5 years for this to happen or 10 years. Like it'll be less of a slog, but right now we're kind of have this requirement in many regards of there being this time component, because it's like we need to undergo this journey of maturity, And we really need to prove that we are aligned with higher spirit with what we're going for. But if that can be expedited, but it doesn't lose any of the true intention and purity of desire, then I think things will happen faster. And so we'll see this acceleration take off. And then how that opens up the other tools then remains to be seen.
I'm actually writing my next book on this, and kind of you already talked about it, Stefan. Like, I call him Stefan because I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's like,
Both.
yeah, it's like the original technology of the self to me, and the self, capital S. It's like your awareness. It is plasma and consciousness, and to me, like, I call that plasma intelligence, right? And what that simply means, and I think in the future, what that will be, is that we're going back to our original sense, right? Our first holistic sense, but it's also this evolved sixth sense. And what that is our ability to holistically take in things with feeling versus mind. So it's like we're taking it with our heart. It's emotions, it's olfactory senses, which are all over our body, not just our nose. It is sensing and smelling vibration. It is resonance. It is optics. It is feeling and sensing. And, our optics will change. Optics is going to become a huge field because things we see are going to be much more individualized. And it's hard to explain, but hopefully that'll make sense one day based on our own olfactory senses or our plasma intelligence, which is our interface for the world. And we will start using this plasma intelligence. And you can call this whatever you want: sixth sense, energy, chi, body, Mirkaba, however you say it. We will start using this as a creation tool, like emotional technology, and we'll use it for creation, guidance, communication, versus once again being victim to our senses. So we'll start using it as like a creative and communication mechanism. And like one way this will work is, we're all in this plasma intelligence bubble, right? When a conscious being from our dream, or like maybe like a being from anywhere else, starts to merge, starts to, connect to us, and this can be humans too, we'll take them in with this sense. And we'll know more about them. We'll be able to feel things. We'll be able to communicate with them, even though it's another language, based on what we're seeing and sensing in symbols. And the new language is going to be emotions and symbols in our mind. And we'll realize that story is the communication mechanism, and feeling and these visions. And it's going to be like our new mode of operating throughout the world. And it's always been there, but now it's like evolving, and we're ready to use it. Because if we used this back in the archaic times when we were like in survival mode, we would have created a mess on Earth. But now it's like, since we're learning to be more, loving, and the more we clear, the evils away or whatever, we'll be able to use this in a more responsible, ethical way, our magic powers, basically. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Amelia, I know you have a closing thing to do, but I also know the viewers 100% are going to want to know, Dana, what are these toys that you've been playing with? You have to show people, and then we can close out. They're like, what's she been throwing around in this wand thing?
Only if it's PG-13.
It is. There's no
Okay.
This is my desk, not my desk. I'm just kidding. That's just a joke, guys. I just had to say that for the men here to rile them up.
Maybe a joke.
Yeah. No, I actually... Okay. So this is my fairy wand. It just reminds me that I'm a whimsical fairy, and, it's just a symbol for my real wand, which is my consciousness, which is a tool for my awareness. And then I have my unicorn stress ball. I love unicorns. They're whimsical, and it's glittery, and once again, it's fantastical. And then just two other things I have here that I do play with on my little desk is my turtle that says "Wish it, dream it, do it," and then my dragon, my plasma dragon.
Oh wow!
And that's it.
Because I know people are like, what's she doing? Like the whole time, probably like one neuron in the back of their head was like, what is this?
I'm more wondering, where is Stefan? Like, he looks like he's got some space
I know where
shit.
it is.
Yeah, I'm on the planet Io. This is the planet Io at Jupiter. So I'm right in the middle of the whole plasma field for Jupiter right now. It's really crazy because Io is a volcanic planet, blasts out tons of volcanic emissions into orbit around Jupiter, which then accelerates in the magnetic sphere to become a relativistic flux, but then Jupiter sprays all across the solar system.
Wow.
Pretty interesting.
There's a Netflix movie called IO. Have you watched it?
No, I've heard some weird things about Netflix though. Like there's some weird shows on Netflix, so I don't really
Watch the movie.
I'm rewatching Narnia right now.
Ooh.
Recommend. Anyways, wow, this has been a vibe. You two, thank you so much for making the space. And I think this is a example of the types of conversations that are going to be more of the future, where we can see each other's perspectives, give each other the space to hear one another. And that's really why I wanted to bring you two together. And obviously both representing a younger generation that is seeing the world in very new ways. And I love the opportunity to just sit back and watch you two interact and ask questions here and there. So I know we'll probably do this again. And then I'm sure, if those of you that resonated, we'd love to hear from you as well down in the comments. I'll personally be reading the comments down in this video. So I'm curious to see what everyone's magic gifts are. And appreciate you both so much and all the love. I can't wait to do this again.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Had a great time.